There is a root sweeter than most fruit, and much of its sugar does not feed you the way ordinary sugar does. It feeds your gut bacteria instead. It grows in poor soil, produces huge yields, and people in the Andes have eaten it for thousands of years. So, why has almost nobody in your country ever heard of it? It can produce several kilograms of food from a single plant, more than most home gardeners would expect. It survives conditions that wipe out conventional crops. It asks for almost nothing: no chemicals, no constant watering, no expensive inputs. And when the season ends, it gives back more than you ever put in. Long before the Inca Empire reached its peak, this root was already being cultivated and used across the Andes. Travelers carried it across mountains because it could hydrate and sustain them at the same time. And healers in the Andes relied on it for something that modern research has spent decades trying to understand. Yet somehow, it never became a mainstream staple, never part of subsidized agriculture, never part of the global conversation about food security, even though it solves problems that conversation still struggles with today. So, this isn't a story about whether it works. The evidence points clearly in one direction. It's a story about why a crop that solves real problems never became a mainstream crop in Europe or North America. Welcome to Dormant Roots. Every video unearths one more secret they forgot to bury deeper. Archaeologists excavating pre-Incan burial sites in Peru found something unexpected beside the pottery, textiles, and ritual objects. They found yacon roots, not seeds, not farming tools. The roots themselves, placed in the graves on purpose as something worth carrying into the next world. That tells you how valuable this plant once was. Yacon had been cultivated in the Andean highlands long before the Inca Empire rose to power. It thrived across a broad elevation range, in thin air and poor soil that defeated many other crops. Its name is linked to Quechua words associated with water, fitting for a root prized above all for the hydration it provided in a harsh environment. Travelers crossing mountain passes carried it with them because it needed no preparation, no fire, and no tools beyond pulling it from the ground and eating it raw. By the time the Inca expanded across the Andes, yacon was already part of the system they inherited. It moved with traders across mountain territory. It fed people at altitude when little else could. And in 1615, yacon appeared in the written record through the work of Felipe Guaman Poma de Ayala, the indigenous Peruvian chronicler who documented Andean life before and after the Spanish conquest. The Spanish carried potatoes back to Europe. They carried tomatoes. They carried chili peppers. Yacon never followed, not because it was less useful, but because a combination of post-harvest fragility, limited early diffusion, and poor fit with large-scale commodity systems kept it from becoming part of the global food story. The knowledge was never truly lost. It was buried. For centuries, Andean farmers knew this root did something different to the body. They could not explain why. Modern science finally can. But this is where the science gets hard to ignore. Yacon contains something most foods barely have at all. A large share of its dry weight consists of fructooligosaccharides, or FOS, carbohydrates. Your body does not digest the way it digests ordinary sugar or starch. Instead of being broken down early in digestion, they pass on to the large intestine, where they become food for beneficial gut bacteria. And that matters, because supporting those bacterial communities is increasingly linked to digestive health in ways that most modern diets actively work against. In plain terms, yacon tastes sweet, but it behaves very differently from foods like potato, white rice, or table sugar. Those foods can drive blood glucose up quickly. Yacon has a much lower glycemic impact. That is one of the reasons researchers began paying serious attention to it. By the 1990s, scientists in countries like Japan and Peru were already studying yacon for exactly this reason. And in 2009, a study by Genta and colleagues reported improvements in several metabolic markers among participants who consumed yacon syrup over 120 days, including reductions in body weight and fasting insulin. The study was small, and not every result has been replicated at the same level, but the biological mechanism behind it is plausible, and the broader direction of the research is hard to dismiss. What the Andean farmers observed in practice now has a precise biochemical explanation. Science was finally catching up. So, why have most people still never heard of it? But this is the part that should really make you stop and think. Yacon is not obscure because it failed. And it is not missing from mainstream supermarkets across most of the Western world because it has no value. It is missing because the systems that decide what gets grown, shipped, funded, and sold do not primarily reward nutritional quality. They reward shelf life, uniformity, transportability, and processing potential. And Yacon performs badly on almost all of those measures. Its roots are fragile, they bruise easily, their shape is irregular, which makes large-scale sorting and retail standardization harder. And unlike potatoes, which can sit in storage for months, fresh Yacon is far less suited to a long industrial supply chain. That matters more than most people realize. The crops that dominate global agriculture are not always the ones with the most interesting nutritional properties. They are often the ones that can be harvested mechanically, stored cheaply, transported long distances, and processed at scale. Wheat, corn, soy, potato. Not because they are useless nutritionally, but because they fit the system extremely well. Yacon does not. You cannot easily build a global commodity market around a fragile root with uneven shapes and limited storage life. And one of its most interesting properties, its FOS content, is also difficult to preserve under the kinds of processing that industrial food systems prefer. The more the product is standardized and transformed, the less distinctive the original root can become. You cannot patent a root that farmers have been dividing and sharing freely for 1,000 years. There is no business model in a plant that reproduces itself and asks for nothing. That is why crops like this often end up in a different category altogether, underused or neglected crops with real value but little institutional support. In 1989, the National Research Council highlighted this broader pattern in lost crops of the Incas, pointing to Andean plants that had long been overlooked by modern agricultural systems. Yacon fit that pattern almost perfectly. Nobody had to ban it, the system just did not reward it. That is not an accident, that is a structural outcome. And it explains exactly why you have never seen this root in your local supermarket, never read about it in a nutrition guide, and never once heard its name in school. But here is what the system cannot take from you. Yacon is not impossible to get. Once you know what it is, you can find rhizomes through specialty growers, heritage seed networks, and permaculture suppliers in parts of Europe and North America. And once you plant it, you usually do not need to keep buying it. It multiplies. The growing process is simple. Plant the rhizomes in spring after the last frost. Give them sun, well-drained soil, and space to spread. Do not overload the soil with nitrogen, or the plant may push more energy into leaves than roots. And after that, Yacon asks for surprisingly little. In the right climate, it can grow with minimal intervention. Then autumn arrives. The foliage dies back. You dig carefully because the roots bruise easily. And suddenly the math changes. You put one plant into the ground and pull out far more food than you started with. Do not eat the roots immediately. Let them rest for a week or two. The sweetness intensifies as they sit. Eat them raw, and you keep more of the qualities that made the plant interesting in the first place. Slice them into salads. Eat them like fruit. The texture is crisp and juicy, somewhere between apple, pear, and something almost tropical. And when the harvest is over, you keep the rhizomes, store them through winter, plant them again in spring. Now the cycle belongs to you. No supermarket has to approve it.